Ishmael is a significant figure in the Holy Scriptures, especially in Judeo-Christian and Islamic traditions. His story is primarily recorded in the Old Testament of the Bible and the Quran. Ishmael was the firstborn son of Abraham and Hagar, Sarah's servant, who was Abraham's wife. Ishmael's story is closely tied to the divine promise made to Abraham that he would become the father of a great nation. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 2, God says to Abraham, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." In this declaration, God is speaking directly to Abraham, promising to make him the father of a great nation, blessing him and making his name famous. This promise is key to understanding the context in which Abraham and Sarah lived and the circumstances that led to the conception of Ishmael as an attempt to fulfill that divine promise. Before we continue, I ask for your help in spreading this video by subscribing to the channel and leaving your like. I am sure God will repay you double. Abraham and Sarah were elderly when they received the divine promise. Their advanced age made the promise even more extraordinary, as natural conception became unlikely. Moreover, Sarah had been barren since her youth, further complicating the situation. The inability to conceive was a constant source of sadness and challenge for the couple. The prolonged wait generated anguish and uncertainty at times. Abraham and Sarah may have questioned whether the promise would be fulfilled and how God could accomplish what seemed impossible. Faced with the delay in conceiving a child, Sarah suggested to Abraham that he take Hagar as a concubine so that they might have children through her. Abraham agreed, and Hagar became pregnant. At the time when Abraham lived, around the second millennium before Christ, societies were often nomadic, and family ties and marriages were of extreme importance. Practices such as having a servant conceive children were a cultural response to the pressures of securing descendants and inheritance. The impatience, particularly from Sarah, in trying to fulfill the divine promise through human means would have disastrous consequences, resulting in conflicts between Sarah and Hagar. These conflicts highlight the adverse consequences of decisions based on impatience and a lack of trust in God's plans. The atmosphere became unbearable to the point where Sarah threatened Hagar's life. Feeling oppressed and out of place, Hagar fled to the desert, seeking relief. Alone, facing the uncertainties of the harsh environment, Hagar was visited by an angel of the Lord. The angel brought a comforting and prophetic message, revealing that the son Hagar was carrying would be named Ishmael. The angel also prophesied about Ishmael's future, describing him as a wild man, but blessed by God. This divine intervention in the desert not only brought comfort to Hagar, but also gave significance to the child she was carrying. The name Ishmael means God hears, reflecting the divine response to Hagar's suffering and her distress. So, Hagar returned to Abraham's household, and later Ishmael was born. Abraham did not hide his love for Ishmael, his firstborn son. In Genesis chapter 17, verse 18, it is written, "And Abraham said to God, 'If only Ishmael might live under your blessing.'" Concerned for Ishmael's fate, and perhaps anxious for the fulfillment of God's promise through him, Abraham asked God to bless Ishmael. However, God had specific plans for the fulfillment of his promise of a great nation through Abraham's lineage. In response to Abraham's plea, God renewed his promise and established a specific covenant with Abraham. In Genesis chapter 17, verses 19 to 21, God says to Abraham, "But your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation." God reaffirmed his promise of a great nation through Ishmael, but emphasized that the specific covenant of the promise would be established through Sarah's son, Isaac. Later, the improbable happened. God, fulfilling his promise, revealed to Abraham that Sarah, despite her advanced age, would conceive and give birth to a son. This news was initially met with disbelief, both by Sarah and Abraham. Upon hearing the announcement, Sarah, already old, laughed internally, as the idea of conceiving in old age seemed absurd. This laugh reflected a mix of surprise and disbelief, and perhaps a touch of resignation, given the apparent impossibility of the situation. God, noticing Sarah's laughter, asked why she laughed, highlighting the uniqueness of the event about to occur. The birth of Isaac occurred as per the divine promise. Isaac means laughter, and his name is directly linked to Sarah's initial laughter. The consequences of this event were profound. First, it marked the fulfillment of a divine promise that seemed impossible in human eyes. Sarah's initial disbelief was transformed into realized faith with Isaac's birth. Furthermore, this event had implications for family relationships, especially the dynamic between Isaac, Ishmael, Hagar's son, and Sarah. Isaac's arrival intensified the family tensions that culminated in the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael, illustrating the complexities resulting from human choices and the fulfillment of divine promises. Sarah's initial rejection and the subsequent expulsion into the desert left Ishmael and Hagar in a difficult situation. The family dynamic was marked by tensions and feelings of abandonment. As a rejected son, Ishmael faced questions of identity and belonging in the desert. Hagar and Ishmael experienced loneliness and uncertainty. The Bible highlights Hagar's anguish at seeing her son suffer and Ishmael's struggle to adapt to a harsh environment. At one point, their situation in the desert became desperate. The water ran out, and they faced the prospect of dying of thirst. Hagar placed Ishmael under one of the trees and distanced herself, unable to bear seeing her son perish. At this critical moment, God intervened. An angel of the Lord called to Hagar from heaven, asking, "What is the matter?" The angel then told Hagar not to fear and promised that God had heard Ishmael's cries. The angel revealed that God would make a great nation from Ishmael. God then opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well of water nearby. Hagar went to the well, filled the skin with water, and gave it to Ishmael to drink. This well, miraculously provided by God, saved the lives of Hagar and Ishmael in the desert. After this divine intervention, Ishmael and Hagar continued to live in the wilderness of Paran. Ishmael grew up, became an expert hunter and archer, and his mother, Hagar, arranged for him to marry an Egyptian. The Bible mentions that Ishmael had 12 sons. These are considered the ancestors of various Arab tribes. The biblical verse that addresses this phase of Ishmael's life in Genesis cites, "God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt." This period in Ishmael's life highlights his ability and adaptability to desert life, as well as the continued presence of God's blessing upon him. The choice of an Egyptian wife also underscores the cultural connections between Ishmael and the surrounding region. The Bible also records the marriage of Isaac's son, Esau, to Ishmael's daughter. So Esau went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth and daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. The biblical account does not provide extensive details about the specific events of Ishmael's adult life. However, there is a later reference mentioning Ishmael alongside Isaac in the context of Abraham's death. In Genesis chapter 25, it says, "His sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite." This passage indicates that despite the initial challenging circumstances, Ishmael and Isaac, half-brothers, reunited to bury their father Abraham. The biblical account mentions Ishmael's death, but does not specify the cause. These were the years of Ishmael's life, 137 years. He breathed his last and was gathered to his people. The term Ishmaelite is used to describe Ishmael's descendants, who became a great nation according to the divine promise made to Hagar and Abraham. This lineage is often associated with nomadic peoples who inhabited the desert regions near the Arabian Peninsula. Thus, the name Ishmael became not only a designation for a specific lineage, but also a relatively common name frequently mentioned in the Bible. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let us know in the comments where you're watching this from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hugs and God bless.